There are a wide category of mutual funds and it's often very confusing for investors. The Flexi-cap funds and the multi-cap funds. They almost sound very similar, they operate very similar. Now let's see what the differences are. Within the scheme of equity mutual funds, there are a wide category of mutual funds and it's often very confusing for investors. And we're going to talk about two such categories of mutual funds and try and find the logic between one and the other. And I'm referring to what we call the Flexi-cap funds and the multi-cap funds. Many investors are unable to comprehend the differences between these two types of funds. They almost sound very similar, they operate very similar. The only similarity between these two categories are that they are equity funds. Other than that, everything else about them is different. Now let's see what the differences are. Flexi-cap funds, as the name suggests, are funds which provide flexibility to the fund manager. These are open-ended equity funds which are dynamically positioned to capture the benefits of the market at that point in time. They can invest entirely across different segments. They can invest in large cap, mid cap, small cap, or stay in cash as long as at any point in time they are at least 65% invested into equity. That's the only condition Flexi caps have. Predominantly in India, Flexi cap funds have traditionally been overweight on large caps. So typically when you take a Flexi cap and you look at the portfolio, you will find that 70-80% of the holdings of a Flexi cap mirror that of a large cap. The balance 20% will have a little bit of mid cap and small cap in some measure. Now this is the way the S&P 500 of Indian stocks also looks. So in some sense, Flexi caps try and mirror the market capitalization of the top 500 companies in India. Now that's really the logic. On the contrary, multi-cap is a completely different animal. Now how is it different? First up, at least 75% of the monies in multi-cap fund must be invested in equities, not 65, 75%. At least 25% of the monies in this fund must go into these three categories of large cap, mid cap, and small cap each. No change. You cannot have less than 25% in small cap, less than 25% in mid cap, and less than 25% in large cap. The last 25% can be as per what the fund manager chooses. So he can either keep it in cash or debt securities, or he can keep it in large, mid, or small cap, depending on what he wants to do. So this is a multi-cap fund. This is entirely different because it holds 25% in small cap and 25% necessarily in mid cap. It has a far greater risk taking capability than the Flexi cap fund, which can change according to the market. Now that's the big difference between these two funds. Now let's understand who is the better investor for Flexi cap and who should be investing in multi cap. Now Flexi cap mimics large cap. So typically investors who like a large cap fund or want to stay invested in large cap but want a little flavor of mid and small cap should be doing Flexi cap. So if you don't want to do a pure large cap, a Flexi cap is a good place for you to invest your money. Most of it is large cap, a little flavor of mid and small cap in your portfolio. Very, very good. Again, being equity funds, we would recommend you to stay invested for a 3 to 5 year horizon. On the contrary, if you're entering multi-cap, then you need to be looking at staying invested for a far longer period. It is a fund that has investments in large cap, mid cap, small cap of even measure, likely to be far more riskier than the Flexi cap funds. So one needs to clearly have a horizon of 5 years if one wants to gain the benefit from multi-cap funds. Now the advantage of multi-cap is, irrespective of whether large cap is doing or mid cap is doing or small cap is doing, as long as equity market is doing well, this fund will do exceptionally well because it has even measure of large, mid and small in its portfolio. So Depending on which side of the risk and return you want to be, you can choose between flexi-cap and multi-cap, but by no measure are they the same thing.